Welcome to the MasterCAM course. In that lecture, we're gonna talk about C-plane. I need to click here to be able to organize my C-plane. My C-plane gonna turn to top, and then I can click here to turn to 3D to 2D here, and then I can organize my Z position. After that, I can turn to the wireframe options and curve on a edge options, and then I can click my surface with that arrow. I'm gonna approach to my edge like this, and as you can see here, my circle is created automatically on that Z position. This is my Z position and the 50 millimeter. If I am changing my C-plane top to front, and then I can turn to the curve on the edge options and click my surface and select my face, and then we're gonna see that's kind of actually curve here. Okay, let me turn to actually 120 here. I can delete that one, and then I can create again, so it is projected here. Okay, let me turn to front to right. This is right position, and curve on the edge options, and then I can select my edge. So that's it. I can turn to the top view again. So this is my C-plane approach actually. Hello again, welcome to the MasterCAM course. At that lecture, we're gonna talk about our planes actually. When we turn to the MasterCAM design process, we need to be careful about our and the VCS, working coordinate system. Actually, when we turn to our VCS, we're gonna see the X, Y, and Z axis. This is the 3-axis actually Cartesian coordinate system. Okay, when we use this coordinate system actually, we already have X, Y, and Z axis. So according to this perspective, actually, we can easily use our C-plane. This is my C-plane. For example, when I am turned to wireframe to create some circle or maybe rectangle shapes, let me create the rectangle shapes here, and then I can click my origin as at this point. After that, we can easily create 150 millimeter rectangle shapes, and then actually we can easily create our rectangle shapes like this one. So as you can see here, I can easily be able to create my rectangle shapes on the X and Y axis. So this is my C-plane. This is my C-plane and my C-plane on the top view. So we can easily click the OK button, and then we're gonna see that's kind of rectangle shapes. After that, I can easily change my working system 3D to 2D by hitting the dots button. When I am hit the dots button, we can easily turn to 3D or 2D. Okay, let me turn to the 2D, and while we are working on the C-plane as the top, we can easily change our Z position. For example, I can hit here, and then we can easily write 50. So after that, when we turn to the rectangle shapes, and by using the same distance, and then we can easily hit the origin. But when we hit the origin, actually, we're gonna see that our rectangle is created on this position. So I just need to hit OK button. So this is the C-plane and 2D options. So we can easily write here as a minus. This is the minus 25, and we can turn to the rectangle shapes again, and then we can also select the origin. So we're gonna also see that's kind of options here. It can also be 150. So we can also hit the OK button, and then we're gonna see that's kind of solution. It's perfect. And after that, actually, we can easily turn to the 0 position, and then we can change our C plane. For example, I can hit here and then we can turn to actually front view. Okay, so when we turn to the front view, we're going to see that my z-axis is also going to change. We can also see that stuff by using the actually, and here let me turn to the view options. When I am hit the view options, we can also see that and actually which options can be seen in our screen. So we can also hit that button. This is the show and actually tool options. We can also see that, and the show axis, word axis, VCS axis, C plane, and the T plane. Okay, we can also see all the display options from here, or we can also use the F9 and actually Alt plus F9 button. Okay, like this one. Okay, and we are working on the front view right now. So after that, I can click the wireframe and then we can also hit the rectangle shapes. Okay, so we can easily and start from here. So this is actually, okay, let me exit from here and we can turn to the rectangle shapes and then we can start from here to here. But as you can see here, we are working on the 2D and Z0 position. So that's why my point selection is projected to 0 position according to my C plane. Okay, while we are working on the front view, we also need to be careful about this one. Okay, let me turn to the 3D. Okay, let me delete all that line here and I can turn to the rectangle and then I can hit here and here. So we can easily create that kind of and the lines here. Okay, so while we are working here and the 3D options, we can easily create that kind of line here. Okay, that's also possible. We can also turn to the 2D and then Z position and then I can hit that position. So this is the 0 and I can make them -5. And after that I can turn to the rectangle and then I can hit that point and that point and then you're gonna see that that is projected automatically here. Okay, so this is the front view perspective. Okay, and let me use the under button like this one. Okay, let me turn to the front to right. This is the right view. Actually, we are working on the right C plane right now. So when we turn to the rectangle shapes, we are working on the 3D right now. So Z position is not important. So I can hit that button, that point, and that point, and then you're gonna see that we can easily create that kind of and rectangle shapes here. Okay, that's fine. That's perfect. This is the C plane, top, front, and right. So that part is quite important. After that, we can easily get to know about how can we create from geometry, from solid phase, and from the G-weave and normal entity and related to VCS options. So this is actually our standard and the VCS to be able to use in MasterCAM. Okay, thank you very much. If you have any question, don't hesitate to ask me any question. I am here to answer your question, and take care. Hello again, welcome to the MasterCAM in a minute course. In that lecture, we're going to talk about actually VCS progress. When we turn to the actually 5-axis or multi-axis process, actually VCS progression is quite important. So that's why I try to understand in that lecture, we try to understand VCS and plan manager. Okay, let me turn to the wireframe. So as you remember that we have three main actually plane and the top, front, and right. As you remember that we are working on the top plane and then and I'm gonna prefer to use the 2D by hitting that button, and then I'm gonna working with and z-axis 0. And after that, we can turn to actually rectangle and rectangle shapes. And then we can use actually base point. And then let me create and 150 millimeter rectangle shapes like this. And then after that, we can turn to the isometric perspective. And then let me create actually transform and translate options. When we click here, actually we need to select our geometry. This is my geometry. And then we can hit the end selection button. And after that process, actually we need to write our Z distance. My Z distance can be 50 millimeter. At that point, we prefer to use as an entity, and we can prefer to use the join. And then we can easily create, and that's wireframe. Okay, and then we can hit the OK button. After that, we can use right mouse button and clear color button. Okay, and after that, if you would like to create some actually plane here, let me create extra wireframe here. I'm gonna use the endpoint, and then I prefer to use and the midpoint of that line. Of course, before that, we need to turn to the actually 3D. And let me turn to here, line endpoint, and then we're gonna use this one and this one. We can also select this midpoint, and we can also select this midpoint as well. And after that, we can turn to the line endpoints again, and then we can use the endpoint for and this part and another endpoint for this part. And after that, we can delete this one. And then let me turn to the divide and select these entities to delete all of them. Okay, that's it. And after that, if you would like to create some and extra shapes here, maybe we should create some plane here. So to be able to create some plane here, actually, we need to turn to actually VCS. So I'm gonna hit that planes options. You can see that we have top, front, and right plane here. If you intend to add new one, we're gonna create here to create new plane options. And then we can prefer to options. We can prefer to use from geometry options. We can hit that one. And then after that, we can select these entities and these entities. And according to my entities, actually, my VCS is created like this. If you would like to view the different options, you can hit that button and then can be seen and the different options. So I'm going to prefer to use this one, and then my plane is going to be created like this. So we can also write your plane name here. For example, we can write G55. We can also change actually X, Y, and Z coordinate. You know that we are creating some orientation here. This is my Z-axis, and we can also move that origin to X, Y, and Z-axis 0 position. So it means that we're gonna rotate our VCS like this on this direction. And then if you intend to work in this direction, you can turn to your VCS here and C-plane and tool plane here. And after that, you can also use the 2D and 3D options. For example, I can turn to the 2D and Z-axis. If I am clicking here, this is -45. If you click here and select this one, it can be seen as the same distance. Okay, so it means that we are working on the and this plane right now. Okay, and then actually we can easily turn to here, and then we can create some actually diagonal line like this, and then we can turn to the rectangle shapes, and then we can use the actually base point, and then it can be 50 to 50, and then actually we can easily select this midpoint. Oops, let me change my distance. It can be 25 to 25. And then we can also turn to the transform and translate options. After that, we can easily select these entities and hit the enter button, and then we can also select our and join and z-axis distance like this. And then we can use the clear color options again. Okay, that's it. If you intend to create some actually G code for and this VCS, you can easily create your toolpath according to and that VCS. So if you intend to change to actually top plane, you can hit here. This is the planes options. And then I just need to click here, VCS, C plane, and tool plane. If you intend to turn to back here, we can easily turn this stuff. Let me turn to the wireframe and then circle. Before that, maybe we should use the line entities like, and oops, we need to change and the 3D as well. Let me turn to the 0 and 3D, and after that we can easily create our diagonal line, and then I can create 25 millimeter diameter here by using the midpoint of my diagonal line. You can see that we are working on the X and Y plane here. So if you intend to change your plane again, you can hit here, and then we can turn to the VCS and C plane and T plane here. And then after that, we can easily add new line entities starting from here to here, and then we can easily write our radius and circle like this, and we can delete this one. Okay, let me turn to here and here again. So this is the main idea creating your plane actually. We try to understand actually and create new plane by using the from geometry options. We can also use the relative to VCS. We can also use the dynamic and from entity normal and the from GView, and we can also see that from solid phase options. Okay, we can also gonna consider and that stuff to be able to understand VCS and creation. VCS creation is quite important. So when you turn to the any toolpaths, actually you can easily select your VCS. Let me save that file. Okay, we can save our file. After that, we can easily turn back to machine setup and default setup. And then we can easily turn to the mill toolpath and contour toolpath. If you intend to create and for this geometry, we can easily turn to the plane and our VCS, C plane and tool plane. And then we can turn to our toolpath. We can easily create our face toolpath. When we consider our and wireframe changing, we can easily hit the C plane to select our geometry easily. According to my C plane, our geometry is going to be selected automatically. And after that, we can hit the OK button. And then let me create my tool. For example, we can easily create our tool. Okay, and then let me turn to the linking parameters. It can be incremental, incremental, and incremental 0 and incremental 0. When we turn to the plane, actually, we can easily see that our working coordinate system, tool plane, and constraint plane is selected automatically. And then let me hit OK button. We can also change actually and other stuff about and the cut parameters. We can easily turn to the zigzag parameters. We can organize our step over and conventional machining, and we can also organize our and roughing angle, and then we can and organize all that stuff is quite similar and with actually and the normal face toolpath approach. And then that's it. You're gonna see that's kind of approach and after creating your VCS. So when you get your G1 button to get your G code actually, you're gonna see that it's created according to that VCS. Okay, this is the main idea behind creating our VCS. Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciated your interest. You can also find that file in our Udemy courses. If you have any question, don't hesitate to ask me any question. Okay, in that and lecture, we're gonna try to understand actually and the working coordinate system. And thank you very much and take care. Hello again, welcome to MasterCAM courses. At that lecture, we're gonna talk about actually VCS progress. Okay, let me create rectangle shapes. We are working on the actually and the top view. It's a C plane. Let me turn back to my plane section. Actually, we are working on the top plane. This is the view actually and the C plane, and we can also see the tool plane as a top view. And then let me create my rectangle shapes here. Okay, and this is rectangle shapes. Okay, it can be 150 millimeter, and then I'm gonna hit the origin position like this one. And after that, it's easy for us to use the transform and the translate options, and we can select our geometry, and then we're gonna use the 50 millimeter, or let me write 30 millimeter with join options to create that kind of and the shapes. After that, we can use the right mouse button and clear color options. Okay, anyway, after that, let me turn back to the wireframe and line entities, and we are working on the 3D options, and let me create that kind of let me create midpoint of this line and the midpoint of this line, and to create my actually line. And after that, we can easily create that kind of line here, and then we can delete this one. I can easily turn to the divide options, and that's it. We're gonna have that kind of geometry. After that, I can turn to do actually create plane, and from geometry options, and then I can select this one and this one, and then we're gonna see that kind of VCS is created automatically. I'm gonna hit that button and that button. After that, we can easily turn to C plane and tool plane here, and then you can also see that, and it is easy for us to actually create some another geometry here. For example, I can use this is the actually C plane. I can turn to the line entities option starting from here to here, and then we can easily turn to here, and then I can create some circle with 20 millimeter diameter. After that, we can easily delete this one, or okay, let me turn to the here, and I can easily create another rectangle shapes here. Let me turn to the rectangle shapes. Okay, it can be 25 to 25 millimeter, and then we just need to hit the origin position. Okay, like this one. Okay, after that we can delete this line. I can use the transform and the translate options, and we can select all that line and hit the OK button, and then we can create some 20 millimeter line like this. Okay, and then we can use this button. Anyway, after that, It's also possible to create another line here. Let me turn to the here, and then we are working on the 3D right now, so I can easily select to actually and some midpoint of my line, and after that we can easily create, okay, let me turn to like this. We can start from here to here, and then I can delete this one. Let me turn to the divide options. We can easily delete this one and this one, and after that we can also use the geometry from geometry options and select this one and this one. Okay, and then we can rotate this one. That's okay for me. Okay, this is another plane. It's already created. We can also turn to the C plane and the tool plane here, and then I can easily create another line here, and then we can also create some rectangle shapes here. It can be 10 millimeter to 10 millimeter, and then I can select the midpoint of that line. So I can also turn to the transform and translate. We can also select all that line and hit the enter button, and then we can create another 5 millimeter line here. So we can easily delete this one, and then it's also possible to create another line here, like this one to this one, this one to this one. Okay, this is the 3D options, and we can delete this line, and then we can also use the divide options here, and then that's fine. We can easily turn to here and from geometry options, and then we can select this line and this line, and then we can easily see the all options, and then hit the OK button, and then we can turn to the C plane to tool plane as our progress. So I can keep going to create that kind of line here, and after that section we can easily turn to here to here. You're gonna see that we can easily be able to create that kind of and geometry by using the plane options. Okay, that's fine. Okay, this is the VCS and geometry from geometry VCS options in MasterCAM. Okay, and thank you very much for listening to me. I really appreciated your interest. If you have any question, don't hesitate to ask me a question. Thank you very much and take care. Hello again, welcome to the MasterCAM course. In that lecture, we're gonna talk about how can we handle our VCS or our plane process. Okay, before starting, let me create some wireframe. Okay, we are working on the top view right now, and I am working on the 3D options. So after that, I'm gonna turn back to the wireframe, and then under the rectangle, we're gonna see the rectangle shapes. According to this perspective, I can create 100 millimeter width and 50 millimeter for height, and then I just need to create my rectangle like this on the actually MasterCAM origin. And after that, we can turn to the transform options and then translate options. I need to select my rectangle shapes and then hit the enter button. And after that, I'm gonna create 50 millimeter and some transform with the join and the method. After that, I just need to hit the OK button. And after that, let me turn back to here, use the clear color options. After that, we are using the 3D options, and then I need to turn back to wireframe, and I'm gonna hit the line and points options. And then let me select that midpoint, and that's midpoint, and then actually we can easily select and this midpoint. Okay, let me rotate my picture here, and then we can also create that line here by using the midpoint. After that, we can turn to the divide options, and then we can easily trim our actually line, and then that's it. After that, let me create my face. To be able to create my face, actually we can use and the loft options, and it's also possible to use the net face. So I'm gonna hit the net face and single mode for wireframe chaining options, and then I just need to select this one and this one and this one. Actually, at that point we need to one more entities, so we don't have in the line. So I can turn to the point options, and then we can easily hit that point, and then we can select the OK button. After that, we're gonna see that kind of face is created. And after that, okay, and after that, let me select that face and then delete them. And then let me turn back to the loft options. We just need to hit loft and then single options. We need to select this one and this one. And then according to this perspective, we can easily create our face. Okay, everything seems fine. Let's create some VCS on that and face actually. How can we create our VCS? So it is easy. We need to turn back to the plane options, and then we're gonna see the some plus button here. Under the plus button, we're gonna see the from entry normal options. So we need to select this one, and then we just need to select our face. So when we select our face, actually, we're gonna see the some VCS on our face, and it can be seen here, X, Y, and Z axis. So this is actually our face normal. Okay, we can also change our VCS like this. Okay, this is the 8 options. So after that, we can easily hit the OK button if everything seems fine for you. And after that, actually, we're gonna turn to the basic new plane options. Here can be seen, and then we can easily write our name for our and for our VCS. I can write surface, and then we can also reorganize our origin position. So we can easily create our VCS on X, Y, and 0 axis. Of course, our normal according to our face. So I just and we can only be able to change our origin position. Okay, the orientation is the same as our surface normal. Okay, so after that we can hit the OK button. So it's fine, but when we try to create a new wireframe, for example, as you can see here, we are still working on the top plane. So we also need to change our VCS. This is our surface, new plane. So I need to hit the VCS and the C plane and T plane. And after that, we can easily turn to here. So to be able to create actually some circle on this face, I can turn to the line endpoints, and I can select actually that midpoint and that's endpoint. And after that, we can easily turn back to the position and the segment position. So as a number, I can write here, and as a 3 and at 3 point actually it can be and the 4 like this. And then you're gonna get some point. After that, by using that point, we can easily create some and circle like this. My circle diameter can be and the 10 millimeter. And after that, actually, by using that VCS, we already work in this C plane. So when we turn to the actually and the surface options here, and under this and stage, we can easily use the trim to curve options, and then I'm gonna hit the trim to curves options. We just need to select our face here, my face, and then I need to select my chain. So this is my chain, and then I just need to hit the enter button, and then we need to select actually keep and the location after the trimming process, and then we're gonna see, and that's kind of solution. Okay, so after that, if you want, you can easily select that's one and that's one, and actually that's all the and the point can be deleted. If you also would like to select your entities, and you're gonna hit and that's options here to select all the entities. So I need to turn to here. Can you see that all the entities can be selected like this one? Okay. If you would like to select the only entities, so we need to select all that stuff under this condition. We can also select all that entities here. If you would like to select all the points, you just need to hit that button, select all the points, and use the delete options. And after that, we can turn to the plane options, and then we can easily change our VCS here. Okay, that's it. After that, for example, we can turn to the boundary options and the partial and the weight options. I just need to select my boundary like this and hit the OK button, and then I can keep going and to create my boundary. We can also use the C plane, and then we can easily select that's and boundary like this. Okay, so that's kind of stuff and can be handled for flat boundary. We can also use the 3D options actually by using the partial weight options. At that point, oops, sorry about that. Let me cancel it. At that point, actually, we can easily select and 3D line for that case. Okay, so yeah, I can keep going like this. So it is easy. If you would like to create that kind of VCS, you can easily use and that stuff here. For example, let me turn back to my and the VCS again. So after that, we can turn to the 2D and Z-axis. We can get our Z-axis here. This is the 50 millimeter. So we can turn to the and the 40 maybe. And then we can easily turn to the transform and the project options, and we can select that point, and that one is going to be projected like this. We can turn to the wireframe again. Oops, sorry, I just forgot to hit the OK button. Let me select this one. It is projected by using the method copy, and then we can easily use the clear color options, and then I can easily use the loft options here, and then we can select, oops, we can select this one. So this is the end of the and our section. I just need to hit here, and then we can select this one, and then you're gonna see that's kind of and face here. After that, we can also use and the flat boundary options, and then you can also see that's kind of options here. After that, and let me turn to the plane. We can easily turn to the top view as a VCS and C plane or something like that. Okay, and thank you very much. I really appreciated your interest. If you have any question, okay, don't hesitate to ask me any question, please, and share that course with your friends. Thank you very much. Hello again, welcome to the MasterCAM courses. In that lecture, we're gonna talk about actually VCS and the view process. Okay, how can we create some VCS according to my point of view actually. So for example, let me rotate my VCS like this by using the midpoint of my mouse, and then for example that view can be my actually VCS. So I just need to hit actually and the planes button, and then we can also select this one, and then actually it is easy for us. We just need to hit that button from G view. Okay, according to my G view, we can easily create our VCS like this one, and after that actually we can also set as and the VCS we can also set as the T plane and C plane. So we can also change our origin position. For example, it can be 50 mm X position and the 50 mm Y position and the 50 mm for and Z axis. So it's also possible to organize, or for example we can rotate our point of view like for example this one, and then we just need to select and from G view actually like this one. So after that we just need to hit OK button, and then we're gonna see the some VCS here. This is the plane, it's created as a and VCS. After that we can also hit that and point to turn to C plane and the tool plane as well. So that's it, we are working on right now. Let me create some circle here like this one, and after that we can easily turn to the top view, and we can also turn to the our view process. So you're gonna see that it's easy for us to create that kind of VCS in MasterCAM. Okay, and thank you very much. Hello again, welcome to the MasterCAM course. In that lecture we're gonna talk about and the VCS progress. Okay, let me turn to the actually isometric view by using the right mouse button and isometric perspective. After that I can turn to the 2D, and then I can change my C plane as a right VCS, and then I can turn to the here, and then I can hit the right view. So this is my view and this is my C plane. After that let me turn to actually and here, and this is the wireframe options. Actually we can turn to the here, and then I can prefer to use the polygon options. When you use the polygon options, I prefer to use and create some and like this and the polygon. This is gonna be my and radius, and then we can also change to our and the sides here. Okay, that's it, and then let me hit the OK button. So this is actually my and the right view, and then I can turn to the transform and the translate options, and I can select all that geometry with and selection, and then I just need to write my Z distance as a and maybe and the 30 mm like this one with the join options. Okay, don't forget to select the join options, and then I can hit the OK button and the clear color options. After that we can turn to the top view. So that's it actually. So how can we create according to that perspective, how can we and we create some and the extra geometry on this view? Okay, so it is easy. Actually I can turn to the geometry and the from geometry options. We can select this one, and then we can easily create that kind of geometry here, and then we can also and drag to our VCS to 0 position, and then we can hit the OK button, and then you're gonna see that we can easily be able to create that kind of and actually VCS, and then we can also hit the G button to turn to the our VCS and here, and after that we can easily create some diagonal line. Okay, so don't forget to turn to actually and the 3D of course. So according to this perspective, my 3D options can be starting from here to here, And then let me turn to the actually my view here. Okay, after that let me turn to here and rectangle shapes, and we can easily create some 20 to 20 millimeter and shapes by using the 2D or 3D options. Okay, you can also need to be careful about that kind of stuff. And then let me turn to the VCS here to here. Anyway, let me turn to the isometric perspective, and you're gonna see that we created that kind of and the geometry here. Okay, let me turn to the display. Maybe we should also change our name. Okay, that is can be my name. And then we are working on this VCS as a C plane and the tool plane. After that we can easily turn to the transform and translate. We can turn to the chain options and selecting this one and hit that button, and then we can select 5 millimeter for this geometry, and then we can turn to here. Anyway, yeah, that's okay. It is created automatically. After that it is easy for us to create and this one, and this one. Okay, so we just need to turn back to actually and the right view as a C plane, and after that we can turn to the transform and the rotate options, and then we can focus on and this area as, and then we can easily select all that line like this one, and then we can hit the end button, and then we just need to write my degree like this, and then we can also write and the number of geometry here, and then we just need to hit OK button, and then we can use the right mouse button and clear color button. So you can see that it is created automatically. Okay, so that's it. But when we turn to the actually this is the CAD options, but if you intend to use this stuff and by using your manufacturing process, actually you need to create extra C plane for this one and this one. So how can we create this one and this one? Okay, it is easy. We already have some VCS here like this one, and we can use the right mouse button here, and then we can hit the rotate incremental options, and according to this perspective we need to rotate our VCS according to y-axis. So I just need to write my degree here like this one and hit the OK button. You're gonna see that we can easily change to our VCS and with this one. Okay, so if you intend to copy this path, actually you can easily use the duplicate options. So I can turn to here. Okay, oops, sorry. Okay, this is my VCS. My VCS can be here actually, but my view can be actually isometric perspective. Okay, let me turn to the here. I can easily turn to the rotate incremental, and I can write y-axis minus and the 36. So this is my first VCS, and this is my second VCS. Okay, so this name can be like this. After that we can also use the right mouse button, and we can also use the duplicate options, and then we can easily use rotate incremental and y-axis, and we can also rotate this VCS with 36, and then we can easily turn to this VCS, and I can keep going to create all my VCS according to that perspective. So my VCS name can be like this. Okay, it's okay. I can use the right mouse button again, and we can also use the duplicate, and then we can also use the right mouse button and the rotate incremental options, and we can also rotate and that's VCS here, and then we can easily change the name of my VCS, and I can keep going to our process like this. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Actually, we can easily create that kind of and the incremental or and duplicate VCS.